and welcome back to Wanderfix. Today we're talking about Destiny. Eric just got Nate and I back into Destiny, actually now that it's dead, which I think is kind of funny. But we've been playing it a lot, and Eric is a huge fan. You know, like a lot. You have a lot of hours in it. So, I mean, what are we going to be talking about today?
So we're mostly going to be going over the history of Destiny, from its early development to Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 to modern day. But then afterwards, we're going to talk a bit about some of the things that made Destiny so special, why it became as big as it became, and then also some of the things that led to its eventual death. For anyone who isn't aware, Destiny is now dead. They ended live service on June 9th, just a couple months ago. The servers are still up, but it's not getting any more updates, so it is truly a dead game.
Where I played a ton of Destiny 1, I did not get into Destiny 2 as much until recently, which is, as Chad said, ironic. But I know a ton of people that are into Destiny. I always assumed it was really popular, so I was surprised when I heard they ended its support.
Yeah, it was a very sudden thing, and we'll get into a little bit about how sudden it was and kind of what happened. But to start, I'm going to roast you guys, because we all know that fashion is the true endgame of Destiny.
I look pretty sick.
So we're going to look at some of the fashion that I've taken of Chad and Nate's characters.
This whole time you've been taking screenshots without letting me know? Dirty.
You fell for my trap. And Chad, all I have to say is you know other shaders exist, right?
I literally love
Every
this one.
single-
I don't need any other shaders. For some reason, this one's just so aesthetically pleasing to me as a warlock. I just don't feel like I need other ones. I'm so happy with
I mean, it's a very fun one, but literally every single time I inspect your gear, you're just using that shader on everything.
I'm gonna be honest, you're probably not gonna ever see a different one. I am a person that kind of, when I like something, I mean, in Destiny 1, I used the Sunshot, and then for like the first, what was it, like 15 hours of us playing Destiny 2,
Yeah.
I still used the Sunshot, and they're like, get a new gun, and I was like, I'm kind of happy with it. I kind of like it. So,
I mean, bro.
I mean, I'm kind of the way with hand cannons. Give me any hand cannon, no matter what it is, as long as it's a hand cannon, I'm happy.
I'll say you do have some very nice armor selection. It's just the shader that I feel like could be improved upon.
What would you? I love it. It's so fun. Look at this. Look at the color on these. This is terrible.
Yeah.
Nate.
What are you talking about? Each one is like a unique palette. It looks good. It's clean.
Yeah, but go back
Huh? Okay.
and tell me that's not a warlock. Like, that is so colorful and cool.
See, like this middle one and this far right one. Yes, that's a warlock. But like, what are we doing with this guy? What are we doing?
I think I was playing the game pretty early, but it was still pretty cool.
Okay.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Are you gonna show off some of your fashion, Eric?
Well,
I'm also
let's
kind
talk
of
about
person-
Nate's first.
I like transmog, but I like transmog towards the end of your time playing the game. I am a person that once you get like equipment, I want to see my character wearing that new helmet that I got. If I have just a transmog at all times, like every new helmet is not exciting to me, and so I like being able to be like, "Ooh, this one looks stupid," but it's my new helmet, so it doesn't bug me as much until maybe end game once I can transmog a little bit more.
That's fair.
That's fair.
I do appreciate the variety in Nate's selection here. And then like Nate still is showing off, like you were saying, Chad, how you kind of want to show off like the cool new gear that you got. Nate is still using all of the default visuals for most of the exotics that he's wearing. So
Well, the exotics are the key to your armor. It's still you gotta build your whole set around it, because it's like, why would I have an exotic and not show it off?
Yeah.
I think my favorite is this guy right here.
That is one of my
the
favorites.
burly guy, yeah.
I grinded a lot of Iron Banner
It kind
that
of
week. I did
Looks
just.
like a different video game though.
I think you called it Monster Hunter last time we were playing.
Yeah, it does look a little monster.
But
Hunter.
okay,
Very Monster
but
Hunter.
those shoulders give me one of my favorite mechanics in the game, which allows me to throw and recall my hammer like I'm Thor. So it's just really fun.
It's a very fun exotic. And here is some of my fashion, so it's fair. All these were taken over the same amount of time. And I will say, I have played significantly more than Chad and Nate, so I do have more transmogs available to me. But
you got some cool ones, but you know,
Yeah.
not as cool as my
Yeah.
shader that I'm never gonna change out. So
I see.
I do like the blue one. I think is my favorite
Yeah.
of these.
I like the all black one. That one's super sleek.
I do.
You like the super black hunter, basic bitch? Holy
It's
shit.
cool.
I
It's
also
cool.
I
It's
like
sweet.
the white one is also nice. The yellow is a little too mustardy for me.
That's fair. That's fair. It's a little too vibrant for the world.
A little too condiment king. It can be
Yeah.
vibrant, but that's given too mustard.
I love Destiny fashion. If there are Destiny fashion that you guys have of your Guardians, we would love to see them. Also, let us know who has the best drip. I think it's me. I think it's much better than what Chad's.
I think mine, I have always gone for like, my warlock is like a space wizard. He's got to look colorful and cool and fun. And so I like mine. I like this.
And I'm a Titan. I gotta be a beefy wall of a man. I'm a Spartan from
Space
Halo
Marine.
with magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But now we'll get into the actual history of Destiny. Destiny itself started well before the initial game release, cutting back to 2007, back when Bungie was working on Halo 3. Bungie was getting real burnt out of Halo. They wanted out of the franchise, out of their deal with Microsoft. And so eventually they were able to come to a deal with Microsoft that they would finish up Halo 3 and make 2 more Halo games, and then during that time Microsoft would fund the incubation project that they were working on, which at the time they didn't know it was going to be Destiny. And then after those 3 games were done, they would separate from Microsoft, which was crazy at the time, because I mean, you guys probably remember the Halo craze that was happening around this time, and people, everyone wanted to play Halo, and no one thought.
I mean, that was like the biggest game of all time.
Yeah, like if you didn't play video games, you knew about Halo. Everyone was playing Halo. It was the Halo 3's release was so big, like every news outlet covered the midnight release of Halo.
And I mean, that was when it came to like the console wars, that was one of the strongest arguments that Xbox had, is that
It was like the only argument that Xbox had. And
I
was
mean,
an Xbox
they also
user.
had Gears of War and Fable and some other stuff,
It's
but
true.
it really
and
was
I
Halo.
like those games. I do actually love Fable and Gears of War, but yeah, they're not Halo. I mean, it was Halo. Like, it was for people getting an Xbox. It was
because
Halo.
Halo is where all your friends were playing. If you went over to someone else's house, you were sitting down on the couch playing 4-player co-op online against other players. It was just everywhere. It was just the early 2000s was Halo.
So this kind of came as a surprise when people eventually found out. And so over the course of Halo ODST and Halo Reach, everyone was kind of wondering what this incubation project Bungie was working on. While we didn't know it at the time, we did get a teaser back in Halo ODST. If you see this trailer right here, it says, or this poster that was in the game, it says Destiny awaits, and it has Earth and what looks like a moon, but can be compared to the Traveler, and then an upside down version of the Destiny logo. And no one knew that this was a teaser at the time, because no one knew that it was called Destiny. So it's just a very, very early teaser.
No, you're just enjoying the smooth jazz of New Mombasa, and you saw this, and you're like, "Oh, that's a cool poster," and you moved on.
And then it wasn't until 5 years later that you're like, "Hey, wait a minute, I remember that." After Halo ODST and Reach, Bungie announces their deal with Activision, which again kind of shocked everyone that Bungie was choosing to go with Activision. But Activision agreed to fund all of Bungie's projects in regards to Destiny. But Bungie had learned their lesson from Microsoft and made it so in their contract, if Bungie and Activision ever split for whatever reason, Bungie would maintain control of the Destiny IP.
Learning from our
That's
mistakes.
Smart.
Yeah.
I mean, Microsoft has kind of killed Halo. Halo's basically dead now, sadly.
I mean, didn't they just have their like remake of
Yeah, but
one of the
last
games?
Halo game.
Let's see. The last Halo game was the Halo CE campaign remake. It's just the campaign. It's available on PlayStation, Xbox, PC. It's like $70 for just a remade campaign. They already remastered Halo CE
You're right.
like
Didn't they
years
already-
ago.
it's the Halo Master Chief Collection.
Yeah, if you want the Halo experience, instead of spending $70 on that campaign, spend $40, get the Master Chief Collection, which gets you Halo CE 2, 3, ODST, Reach, and 4.
Oh,
For
so the only one that
$40.
you're like really missing out on is the first one.
No, CE is the first one.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, and then you get a remastered campaign in there. Yeah, it's not going to be the high-end
better
blur.
graphics and some better stuff, but
And they added
you know,
some
maybe the cheesy
new
graphics
missions.
is part of the love of the old ones. So.
Yeah, but like it
I
has
don't- what are those guys called? The little tiny guys, like
the grunts.
the grunts
yeah.
screaming at me in bad
Young
graphics.
boy.
and I don't want. it.
Well, I mean, the last Halo CE remaster they did was during the Halo Reach era, so it has Halo Reach graphics, which
Yeah.
aren't bad, and you can switch between the two if you want to. I still think it's a
I
fine
haven't played
experience.
Halo Reach since I was like in high school, so I can't remember how good the graphics are. But my high school brain remembers the graphics is very good.
I have
mean,
played
probably
Halo
looked really
3.
good on like the CCTV because all those games were designed specifically with those monitors.
Well,
Did
I
anybody
think-
else, before we go any further, play Halo Reach as a kid and play it over and over that final level, trying to think that you could make it?
Oh
'Cause I
yeah,
did.
Trying to think you could survive.
playing Lone Wolf and just going. I literally, me and my cousin would do that. We would survive hours, but one day hoping that we would win. But eventually, you just get overwhelmed by elite generals and wraiths and phantoms. But
There is
super
no-
fun game. I play Halo 3 still with my cousins fairly regularly, and I still think the graphics hold up decently. I don't think they're great by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think they're bad either. They still hold up.
Yeah,
decently.
I mean they're great. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bungie, who made Halo, everyone loved Halo, and so they were keeping a real close eye on Bungie and Activision because they were like, "What are you guys working on? We want to know what's next." And so in 2011, Destiny was actually leaked prior to its announcement because Activision was going through a very public lawsuit with the developers of Call of Duty, and as part of the trial, the judge mandated that Activision publish all of the currently active deals that Activision has. And amongst those files was the contract that they had with Bungie, in which they said, hey, we'll fund your project as long as you give us a new mainline Destiny game on every other year. And so, if officially Destiny was known to the public, still wasn't technically announced, but through this and other like copyrights of the name Destiny, people were
Wait,
able to figure it
You
out.
said mainline Destiny game every other year?
Yes, which we're gonna get to because it's a very high ask if you know how in depth both Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 are.
And secondly, was Destiny 1 when it came out, was it a live service game or did that term not even exist yet? You know?
It didn't even exist yet. Like the seasonal content model and seasonal passes that didn't come until Destiny 2. Destiny 1 was just the mainline expansions and then like seasonal events that would rotate through.
Yeah, but it was still kind of like the precursor to that, where you were getting a new DLC with a whole expansion and raids and strikes, and then there'd be
you had your
Iron
Christmas
Banner
event
would
that
come
show up.
around every now and again and stuff.
So, people were very excited for Destiny. And in early 2013 is when we got our first look at Destiny during Sony's E3 2013 conference. The developers showed all sorts of concept art, all sorts of inspiration for Destiny. And this is where they kind of coined the term mythic sci-fi, which is used heavily when describing Destiny. It is one of the few like true mythic sci-fi games where you have, you know, these aliens with swords and these knights wielding guns. Like it's a very fantastical world that is still very, very strong sci-fi roots. And so everyone was really, really excited. But around the same time, behind closed doors, it was an entire shit show behind Bungie's doors. You know, they were going through extensive rewrites because the original story that they had planned, they brought it to the higher ups, and the higher ups said, "Hey, cut all of this. We hate it. Like, just rewrite the entire thing at this point."
And higher
and
ups
so they
always
were-
know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Well, I will say this: I got to play the beta for Destiny 1, and I remember playing the beta, seeing the trailers, and I was pretty excited about it because I was a massive Halo fan, loved Bungie. I think Martin O'Donnell was coming back for the score for Destiny, and I was pretty excited. But then when the main game came out and I played through the story and we're getting to the end, and I was just like, "What was the story?" I was like, "What happened?" I was like, I didn't understand anything. I was so confused. It was very poorly done, and though the gameplay was solid and the strikes and everything were super fun, the story was just not there.
Exactly, and that was a very common criticism of the first campaign. Is the game was initially supposed to release end of 2013, but because of the rewrites, they had to delay it to 2014. And it was very, very apparent that they went through intense rewrites. You know, none of the characters felt fully fleshed out. None of the locations really had a reason for you to go to other than the game said, hey, go to this location. Like everyone saw the potential that it had, but the initial campaign itself wasn't great. I mean, you can see the IGN review, which I don't fully trust IGN reviews, but it gives you a good baseline that it was rated a 7.8, which is like pretty good.
Isn't that really good for
pretty good.
IGN? Aren't they like commonly known
IGN,
for giving
it's
sevens? It's like their whole thing. That's like their whole.
Yeah.
IGN is sometimes pretty unreliable in my mind. They give games that should be like a 2 out of 10, a 10 out of 10 for some reason.
No, absolutely. I take IGN's ratings with a grain of salt. This is mostly for comparison of the other campaigns that we'll talk about.
And I mean, when looking at this, I think this is a fair score, though, for the initial release of Destiny. I think the future DLCs got better and better.
Yeah, and the very next DLC, which was the Dark Blow, which released just a couple months after the first game launched, it didn't really do anything to correct the issues that people had with the game. The story still felt mediocre. There wasn't a lot of like end game content for people to chase. It just kind of felt like playing the same 3 missions on repeat all the time. And so in House of Wolves in 2015, that's when it kind of got a little bit better. You know, there's still a lot to be desired when it came to endgame content, but the story felt much more engaging. But hands down, the DLC that truly made Destiny 1 was the Taken King.
I remember that one.
This is the campaign that everyone raves about, and for good reason.
And I remember loving that. I think it's also when they added swords to the game, which was super fun. And I remember playing Rise of Iron, which was fine, but it was no Taken King.
Yeah. Taken King blew everything out of the water. It was immaculate storytelling. It was phenomenal game design. They also added like new subclasses and stuff to the game, so it gave everyone a reason to come play.
Arc started? Or was Arc?
It's where Arc Hunter started, I believe, or maybe no, because they still had Solar Void and Arc from the get-go. But I think it's it's where Arc classes came from, and Void Hunter and Solar Titan.
Yes, that's happened.
Yeah.
I remember that's also like the Trials of Osiris got really big around that time, and the Solar Titan with the throwing hammers was a very oppressive
menace
for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember overall having like a pretty fun experience with Destiny 1, and I remember enjoying House of Wolves. Don't remember much of the Dark Below, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember overall it was a fun game. Just it did get annoying with the grindiness of the quest. Being like, cool, I gotta go do patrols on the moon again for the 1000th time.
Yeah, exactly. But behind closed doors during the Taken King, this is where some of the cracks with Bungie's deal with Activision started to show, because per their agreement with Activision, the following year they would have to launch a new mainline Destiny game. And so they started to kind of wonder whether or not they should continue putting stuff into Destiny 1 or just ship it with the new game. And it kind of became a little tricky for the developers to figure out how much attention to give each game. So a lot of developers were taken from Destiny 1 and put onto Destiny 2. And it was around this time that the current CEO, Harold Ryan, electively stepped down and Pete Parsons stepped forward. We're going to talk more about Pete Parsons later, because I have very choice words.
Great.
But
interesting. That's not necessarily a good thing in terms of Pete here. So,
not Pete.
But shortly after that, they said, all right, you know, we're going to ship out Rise of Iron, and then that's going to be all for Destiny 1, and we're going to focus solely on Destiny 2, because we can't have these two teams working on two games at different times. So they launched Rise of Iron, and it was received to kind of middling success. The story was really interesting, but the gameplay left a lot to be desired, and also the player base in general just kind of like, what's the point of playing this if we're just going to hop over to the next game next year?
Well, it was also, if I remember correctly, like from my experience, like all the other DLCs have been like expanding the galaxy, and Rise of Iron was like, okay, new hub area, and we're on another place on Earth. We're not really like going anywhere new.
There was
just...
no. The most interesting thing about Rise of Iron was Siva, which is something that has never really returned to Destiny, except for the one season that we'll talk about later, I guess.
Also, I do want to tell everyone who is at this point in the video, when playing Destiny 2, we did not have any access to the seasonal content. If you get it now, you will have no access to any of that stuff. So we missed out on a lot of story beats because of that.
And we're going to talk a lot about seasonal content vaulting. Because in Destiny 1, you can play Destiny 1 from initial campaign to Rise of Iron, and it'll be every piece of content that was in the game while it was coming out. The same cannot be said for Destiny 2. Which leads us to Destiny 2 launch. Now, Destiny 2 launched with the Red War campaign, which was very well received. It was clear that Bungie had learned a few lessons from Destiny 1. They had taken, some of the some of the frustrations with the narrative and focused more on that. It still had the issue of not really having a good endgame system. It was really only like 1 or 2 missions that you would play on repeat. Which caused a lot of frustration for people grinding loot, but people understood that in time more stuff would be added, and they were willing to keep playing. The biggest pain points from Destiny 2 Year 1 came from Curse of Osiris and Warmind. These were 2 expansions that were intentionally delayed just for the purpose of selling a seasonal pass, and the stories themselves weren't great. When you talk about Curse of Osiris, which is commonly regarded as like the worst Destiny expansion of all time, the common phrase is 2 tokens and a blue, because during the live stream reveal, they're talking about how there's these cool new activities that you can do to grind loot and look how rewarding it is. And once they finished the activity on stream, they were given 1 blue tier piece of loot, which for anyone who plays Destiny, that's a pretty shitty piece of loot.
Kind of worthless, basically. Once you get to a certain point, there's no reason to ever have a blue.
So it was very, very, it started really strong and then just kind of dipped a little bit, but in 2018 they were able to save it with Forsaken. This is debatably the best Destiny 2 expansion, if not the best Destiny expansion. It did a lot for content grinding. It introduced seasons, so there was consistent updates with new content to play instead of just waiting for the next DLC. It did insane stuff for the story. This is the campaign where Cade dies. Minor spoilers.
Well, you can't play through it anymore, right?
and you can't play through
it. I was going to say that, so it can't
anymore.
even be a spoiler because you can't even play through it.
So, unless you want to go watch a YouTube video.
Playing through Destiny 1 all the way through, and then they get to Destiny 2 and they're like, what happened?
Well, cool. None of this we could play. None of it's available anymore. So we never got to experience this part of Destiny 2, sadly.
It's true. But again, peep the IGN rating. Forsaken was rated a 9. The only other campaign so far that's been rated a 9 is The Taken King. Everything else has been 8.5 or below. Around right after Forsaken launches, Bungie decides, hey, we want to leave Activision for a number of reasons. One, we're not on par to meet their mainline Destiny game every 2 years.
Not even
2,
close.
Because at this point,
because that's them thinking of Call of Duty, which it's interesting to think about how they expect it to be like Call of Duty, where they're releasing a game every year and a half or every 2 years.
Instead, it's
Destiny,
like an MMORPG that just gets constant updates. You can't just launch a new game because then there's no point in grinding loot.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then also with the way this is set up, each expansion could be considered a game in its own right, depending on how you word the contract. But I can see why Activision would be upset by this, because they're wanting a brand new launch to constantly be building hype and becoming another.
Well, and again, like we mentioned, these live service things were new, or they were starting to be new, and so they existed at this time. But it's still, I could see maybe them not fully understanding.
So Bungie wasn't very happy with the expectations of Activision, and Activision wasn't very happy with Bungie's delivery. So they kind of agreed to part ways mutually. From my understanding, there wasn't any insane bad blood between Bungie and Activision. But true to the stipulations of the initial agreement, Bungie maintained control of the Destiny IP. And around this same time, Bungie saw 100 million investment from NetEase
Oh,
in exchange for, which is the same company that does Marvel Rivals.
Okay.
And all they asked for in exchange for the investment was a minority stake in the company and a seat on the board of directors. So very small ask, all things considered at this point in time, and massive investment.
Okay.
NetEase will come up in a little bit. I didn't add them to the timeline, but we will talk in a moment about how NetEase has contributed to Destiny. But shortly after Bungie leaves Activision, they release Shadowkeep. This is their first expansion without any backing from any real backing from any company.
And this is the first DLC we were able to play.
And this is the earliest Destiny 2 campaign currently in the game. During this time, it was kind of mediocre. It wasn't bad. A lot of people were willing to give it the good grace of being like, okay, this is their first DLC out away from Activision and Microsoft and stuff like that. But the story itself just kind of left people with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
That being said, like the seasonal content was pretty good. Nowhere near as good as like the Forsaken seasonal content, but it was still really good. In 2020, shortly after the release of Shadowkeep, Bungie comes forward and says, hey, this is our like 5-year plan. We're gonna release the next 3 expansions, which are Beyond Light, Witch Queen, and Lightfall. But because the game is getting so big, we need to do engine updates, and as part of that, we need to remove content from the game in order to add new content. And so this is where the Destiny Content Vault was announced. They said, with the release of Beyond Light, we're going to be vaulting the earliest 3 campaigns, so it's going to be Red War, Curse of Osiris, and Warmind. But at some point, the raids and content and stuff like that is going to be added back.
So, but they didn't say Forsaken in this one.
No, Forsaken was still in the game at this point in time.
Okay.
Cut to 2021 Beyond Light comes out. A lot of people are very upset about the content vaulting for good reason. They paid for those campaigns and now they're being taken away. It's, fun stories that they enjoyed and now they can't play it anymore. It's very understandably a very frustrating aspect. Most people are able to continue playing past that, mostly because this is right around when the pandemic happened. So a lot of people were stuck at home. They had nothing better to do than just grind Destiny. Yeah. So
I mean, that's what we did with Warzone. We just grinded that during COVID because we had nothing better to do.
Yeah, Nate,
Exactly.
My brother and I just played Warzone until 3 a.m. during COVID the entire time.
It was a nice free game.
Debatably, one of the best things about the pandemic was just being able to game until crazy hours in the morning and not having any repercussions for it. So the game saw a big influx of players because of the pandemic. And around the same time, there's rumors that Microsoft is looking to acquire another studio, and the obvious option is Bungie. They have no contractual obligations. Microsoft has already worked with Bungie. They know how good they are at game development, and so everyone expects Microsoft to pick up Bungie. But unexpectedly, out of the blue, Sony comes in and buys Bungie for $3.6 billion.
So I will say, at least for me, this isn't that unexpected, because in Destiny 1, there was PlayStation-only content that existed in the game. Certain missions, certain exotics you could only get if you were playing on PlayStation, so they already had some sort of working relationship with them for exclusivity. So this doesn't actually shock me that much.
That's fair. But that was actually a concern of a lot of people around this time, was that it was going to become a PlayStation exclusive game. And then, or at the very least, there would be PlayStation.
Or Destiny 3 would be PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But because Bungie remained its own subsidiary under Sony as opposed to part of Sony, that never came to fruition. The content remained uniform across all platforms. You could play Destiny 2 across PC, Xbox, PlayStation. It'll all be the same content, all the same, etc. But what was a very interesting development in the Bungie Destiny lifespan. Now, after some significant delays, the Witch Queen was released, and Witch Queen was bounds and leaps better than both Beyond Light and Shadowkeep, and it's with the Witch Queen that Forsaken was removed. So a lot of people were, upset about Forsaken being removed, but the payoff of the Witch Queen felt, no, I don't want to say worth it, but it kind of helped soften the blow.
Yeah, it alleviated some of the pain.
Exactly. And for the first time in like Destiny 2's lifespan, it felt like the story had a very clear direction. The only real complaints that people had with Witch Queen was PvP and then some game bugs, which there's always been bugs in the game's history.
There still are.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Chad had to kill himself, so he got stuck between a pipe and a wall.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Some fun spaghetti code every now and then. It's also around the launch of Witch Queen that it's announced that there's going to be a final or an additional chapter after Lightfall that is currently under the name The Final Shape. It's announced that they say, hey, we feel like we can't wrap up the story as cleanly as we want to with just Lightfall, so we're doing one more expansion after Lightfall, and that'll be the full Light and Darkness saga. So people are very excited because it's,
I'm glad because playing Lightfall, it makes sense. There was not anywhere close to an ending in that one.
If Lightfall had been the finale, I would have been pissed.
Right. And so that's the thing about Lightfall is Bungie went incredibly hard with the marketing for Lightfall. It is the hardest that they had ever pushed a Destiny campaign. They were giving out sponsorships to streamers across the world to play Lightfall on day one. They were, doing everything that they could to get people to play Lightfall, and it was disappointing to say the least. It felt like a kind of clear cash grab. The story didn't really do much, and it was very apparent once you finished the campaign. People pointed out that if you stitched the opening cutscene and the final cutscene together, it was basically seamless. It felt as if they had made the cutscene and then decided to cut it in half and put a campaign in between it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's
because this is the one. Just so I'm on mine. This is the one with the surfer people.
Yes,
and
Strand. Cloud Strider. Yes.
And Strand. Because I remember when we were playing through this, we just played through these. I was like, man, Strand really kind of feels out of place. In the previous campaign, when you got Stasis, it was like part of the campaign. Like it felt like it was part of the story. And then this one, and like, and Strand's here too. Kind of thing.
Well, also from a design perspective, the way Strand is colored and the weird twisting vines and everything, just its very nature feels like it would have fit in more with the Hive and the Witch Queen, just from like a design perspective.
Exactly.
It felt really out of place. And also the Lightfall campaign, just like, all right, we're just going to this other random place where there's humans, we've never heard of them.
The Cyberpunk
they
city
exist.
we just never heard of somehow.
Yeah, where everyone's uploaded to the cloud and we gotta save them because
that was weird. That was weird.
Yeah, if the bad guys grab the cloud, they will win the war. It's like,
I literally asked Eric while we were playing. I was like, "Is the cloud just their explanation for why there's not people in this city?" And you were like, "I think so, bro."
Yeah, it is the canon. We can't just have people in an active war zone, so they uploaded themselves.
They do it later with the. We are currently playing through the campaign that came out after the final shape, and they have Edge of Fate, and they have people kind of at their base shooting out at the bad guys, or at least kind of taking cover places kind of around the world that you go talk to. So they could have done it.
Yeah, they probably could have, but it was very clear that it didn't get all the development that it probably should have gotten, and that it was kind of just crammed in between the Witch Queen and the finale, and that they took things from both to just kind of blend it in. That being said, as much hate as Lightfall got, the year of Lightfall itself, the following seasons and the quality of life changes that happened was some of the best quality of life changes in the game's history. This is when in-game loadouts was introduced. They did a lot for weapon grinding and subclasses and stuff like that. So the expansion itself was kind of shit, but it wasn't a bad time to be playing Destiny because if the game felt really good.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. But after Lightfall was the Final Shape. Final Shape was delayed a little bit, but Bungie was able to kind of regain some of the hype of Final Shape after the delays in Lightfall through some very, very intense and well-made seasonal content and events. this is around when I started playing, was a couple weeks before the Into the Light event, which was like a mini season that happened right before the final shape, in which you're like, during which they had like a lot of new activities and crazy loot that you could get. So it was a very good lead into the final shape. They did a very good job of making sure that people who had been playing the game prior to the final shape would enter the final shape prepared, and gave new players a chance to hop on before the final shape. And the final shape, I mean, I'm a little biased because, again, this is around when I started playing, so it's near and dear to my heart, but it is, in my opinion, the best Destiny 2 expansion. It tied up the story really nicely. The mission structure was really good. The raid is one of the best ones in Destiny 2. There was just a lot of good stuff that was introduced at this time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it had a really good ending to the story so far. Finally, because everything else kind of feels like a continuous just nothing, and this one kind of was like, okay, we finally have an ending. It kind of is nice.
And I will say, having played this all basically just binging it super quick, I feel like I wasn't, and missing out on seasonal content, I wasn't getting all of the emotion that the story could have given me, but what I was getting was really good, and I could see that if someone had been playing this for 10 years and dedicated themselves to Destiny, or even just a couple years beforehand, it would be a really meaningful and powerful story. It does do a lot of good things. It's really fun, and it adds another subclass, because at this point, there's Stasis, Strand, Solar, Void, Arc, and Prismatic. So you have three classes, 6 subclasses, each of them having their own ways to modify them, which allows for a lot of replay value and a lot of build variety, including with the exotics, weapons, and armors. Like, it does give you a lot to play with for build crafting and other ways to tackle the raids, strikes, and PvP.
And that's the other thing, too, is leading into the final shape, there was a lot of content that Bungie didn't announce beforehand. Like, no one knew that the exotic class item was going to be in the game until after the final shape launched, and they discovered the mission. They're like, holy shit, this is insane. And it was a very, very good expansion and a very, very good launch that unfortunately got soured a little bit afterwards, because only a couple months after the final shape launched, Bungie went through some of the biggest layoffs they've ever went through. They laid off about 200 people, which is approximately 18% of their workforce at the time. That, combined with some weaker seasonal content afterwards, kind of gave everyone who had been playing up to that point a chance to be like, all right, I've played the game for 10 years. We finally got our conclusion. It seems like it's starting to slip down the drain. I'm just gonna dip out now. Yeah. So after the final shape, there was a massive dip in player count. And that leads us to the Edge of Fate. And the Edge of Fate was essentially tasked with the impossible, because they were introducing new gear systems, new activity formats. There was a significant decline in player count due to the final shape wrapping up. So they were trying to make it this new onboarding point, and they were also trying to introduce this new story. So there was just a lot that was being asked of the Edge of Fate.
I feel like if I was, magically in charge and final shape had ended, you have an ending to the story. You had your player base start to fall off. Now, just make Destiny 3. I think the issue with going into Edge of Fate is that your player base has already kind of finished the story. They have already kind of fallen off. They kind of maybe have a bad taste in their mouth. And then the people that aren't playing the game don't understand that this is a new point. And so they don't feel like they can hop in here. I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like this was a hop in point for me. And so if I had final shape, ended it, player base falls off, okay, we're making Destiny 3, I might have started playing the game again, because I'd be like, this is a good entry point again for me to get back into Destiny.
I feel like that would have given them more time to work on it, and it would have generated more hype, because it's like, oh, there's a whole new game, not just, oh, it's another DLC for a 10-year-old game. Hope you played the rest of it. Also, at this point, at least for me, only things I knew about Destiny 2, because I kind of didn't play it at this point, was, all right, I guess there's some fun stuff in it. I know some people whose relationships have been ruined by their significant others being obsessed with Destiny.
To it, yeah.
And it's mired in controversy because of the vaulting situation.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of the community sentiment was at the time is like, why aren't we just making a Destiny 3 if we're like completely redoing the loot system and starting a new story? It just feels like it makes more sense to start something new, especially because just a few months prior, if you remember Nettie's investment in Destiny, just a few months before the release of Edge of Fate, NetEase released a Destiny mobile game called Destiny Rising, which was essentially Destiny 2 but on your phone. Like it was a
And it played like it was playable. Like it
yeah,
was...
like it played so much so like the desktop that people got emulators to run it on their computer, or their PlayStation or whatever. And it was a gacha Destiny game where you would get different heroes and guardians that you play as, and you would just go and do strikes and raids and stuff like that. And so everyone was like, hey, like they made this game for your mobile phone, and it's already introduced a lot of quality of life changes that we've wanted. You need to pick up a new story. Why aren't we making a Destiny 3 instead of just continuing the same thing?
And I mean, from my experience so far with Edge of Fate, they added that whole new text block thing when you're talking to people and other stuff. It feels like they were trying to change a lot with it.
No, to me that feels like they're struggling with money, and I think you mentioned actors.
Yeah, that
was
that
the other
too.
thing. Is this was during the voice actor strike, so a lot of the voice actors they had to replace during this expansion, or they just didn't have characters' voice and would have the little text box show up. So there was a lot of friction points with Edge of Fate, and it just it couldn't get enough lift to actually be something significant. Which leads us into Renegades. Renegades was receiving a significant amount of hate prior to its launch, both because of the ultimate failure of Edge of Fate, as well as the fact that it's just a Star Wars expansion. When people heard that it was a Star Wars inspired expansion, they're like, "What the fuck is this? I don't want like Star Wars
like
Fortnite
something that should
bullshit
be
in my."
It could be fun for like part of the season, like, but not a full expansion.
And
also,
that was what a lot of people were wondering, like, why don't we just make this a season? Why is this a full campaign?
Okay, I also need to point out, because of the weird way Destiny 2 is structured now, if you come into the game not having played it previously, you have to get these different like ranks in order to access certain content and quality of life improvements, like having multiple loadouts, being able to get transmogs and other things. And part of that requires you to play the first mission of this DLC. So we played it just so I could have access to loadouts and other things.
And that was a very frustrating portion as bringing you guys into the game, or back into the game, because you had to make an entirely new account. And yeah, we had to stop playing the Witch Queen like halfway through just to run the first mission of Renegades, so that way you could get like not even just loadouts, but like armor mods, which are a very important part of build crafting in the game.
Yeah, I couldn't get any armor mods. It was ridiculous. And the thing is, that one mission, it was fun, for what I remember, but like from experiencing everything else, like, okay, cool, we had this whole light and dark saga, we're following it up with time travel and trains and mumbo jumbo and Star Wars.
So a lot of people did not have high expectations for it, but those expectations were more or less met. You know, the biggest critique of Renegades was less so the content of the expansion, but more so the lack of it. People were like, yeah, this is like ultimately a fun expansion. It isn't a bad thing. It doesn't feel like it's, you know, shoving Star Wars down your throat. But we wish that there was more of it, because, you know, this was after a big gap of no real seasonal content. The campaign itself launched with very limited content, and so people just kind of wanted more.
Yeah.
Which is why in early 2026, people were very disappointed to find out the mid-campaign update, where they were going to add in a bunch of loot and activities and stuff like that to keep you occupied until the next expansion, that was going to get delayed, which made a lot of people very understandably upset, especially because the initial launch of this mid-season update, Shadow and Order, would have been just a week prior to the launch of Marathon, which was the new extraction shooter that Bungie was working on.
Mhm.
So a
Already
lot of
mired in
people-
all of its own controversy.
Yes. But for a lot of Destiny players, it felt like Bungie was saying, hey, we're delaying this content so that way you'll play our new thing and then come back to this game.
It feels like Bungie they can do something for a couple years and then they start to get kind of bored of it. I mean, talking about like Halo, where they're like, we liked Halo, but Halo was so big when they left and they got bored of it. And Destiny could still be this big, but they were like, I'm bored. We're going to do Marathon now.
Yeah. And that was the other thing that I forgot to mention. But if back during Final Shape when the layoffs happened, prior to that point, Bungie was working on, I think, like 20 different incubation projects. And all of them, except for Marathon, got scrapped during the layoffs because all those teams got fired. So yeah, it was like you're saying, Chad, they couldn't really just pick a thing and be happy with it. It just felt like they were always trying to find something new to work on, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, like as a developer, you want to be able to make the game that you want to make, and that's totally fine. But also, if you have a multi-million-dollar franchise, you shouldn't throw that under the bus for your new toy.
Yeah,
Well, it's also one of those things where, like, at least with Halo, after they finished Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach were very different because they no longer started the Master Chief. They were spin-off stories. They were going in interesting directions. And I thought that was a really clever way to do it, and I kind of wish Microsoft had continued in that direction. That's my hot take. Master Chief did not need to come back. You could have kept doing stuff with Spartan 3s, and I would have been very happy, or ODST.
Yeah.
But it seems like Destiny could have done a similar thing, like, hey,
Or
guys,
your own
we've
version
been
of
doing
Destiny,
a lot of...
but it's Halo, where you're all Spartans, that you create your own Spartan, and like in a Destiny World MMO kind of thing. Then
I mean, and that's what a lot of people, or not a lot of people, I'd around this time I'd seen a lot of people be like, it would be so interesting to play a Destiny game that was set prior to the first two games, where it's just like a bunch of people during the Dark Age, and you know, maybe you aren't light bearers, and you're just like living in this world, this crazy world, and all the effigy drones. And I think that would be very interesting to see this like different aspect of the world.
Or even give us one where you're playing as an Elixni or a Cabal or something. Like, those would be interesting. Explore these different societies and cultures by making you play as them. Imagine how cool it would be to customize your own, like, Elixni or Hive or Cabal character. I think that'd be really cool.
Cabal would be cool. Cabal's the big one, right?
Yeah, Cabal's the big one.
Kind of Roman-themed one, yeah.
I'd probably end up being an Elixni. I just think the multiple arms and, like, the cool cloaks and stuff, I always like them. The Fallen.
That's fair. The Elixni are very fun. They're one of my favorites.
In terms of aesthetics, the Hive are my least favorite.
Really? You don't like the big insect knights?
Like, they're cool, don't get me wrong. I just think the Cabal and the Fallen have much more interesting because there's a lot more variety, it feels like, in them, because they're different, like, houses and families that have different ideas going on, whereas the Hive all just kind of seem more homogenous.
I don't think you've been paying enough attention to the Hive, because they are different, especially in terms of like aesthetics, but I get what you're saying.
They're slightly different colors, maybe slightly pointier in some areas than others. But, like, the Fallen have, like, whole different cloaks and aesthetics, like masks and stuff.
That's true. There's a lot more variance with the Elixni and the Cabal.
Yeah.
But after this announcement that the content was going to get delayed, people were anxiously awaiting to see what would happen with this content. And on May 21st of 2026, it was announced that there's not going to be any more updates after June 9th. They're going to do their final update on June 9th, and the game is going to remain on standby mode indefinitely. Which obviously was very disheartening for a lot of people, because this came after essentially 3 months of radio silence. Bungie would, occasionally come out and be like, haha, we're working on stuff, don't worry about it, but wouldn't give any real updates on Shadow and Order or the next expansion or anything. So it was very, very out of the blue and very, very disheartening.
I remember hearing when Destiny 2 got canceled, and I was kind of shocked, just because that didn't feel like that was a thing that was going to happen. It just felt like it'd be around forever.
It feels like there was probably a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors that, I don't know, just like bad decisions. Because it was a big game. People love this game. I love this game. I played Destiny 1 endlessly. And came back to Destiny 2. People love this game. I think there is still... I actually saw a Reddit post the other day that was like, hey, I'm looking for other games now that Destiny 2 is over, like Destiny 2. And the post was like, there's not. There's a couple. here's a couple,
Well-
here's like 2 or 3 games that are like Destiny 2, but there's not. It's a kind of a league of its own.
It is a completely unique experience.
And that's what I think makes it so cool. Like, literally, there is no other game like Destiny. It has really good, solid first-person shooter mechanics with a really interesting and fun build crafting perspective and this mythic sci-fi vibe that I haven't really seen replicated anywhere.
Yeah. The closest you can get is like Warframe, and even then, it just isn't quite the same.
Yeah.
I didn't like Warframe as much. It was fine.
But now that we've talked about the full history of Destiny from birth to death, what went wrong? What caused this multi-million-dollar game to just die out of the blue? There's a couple of things that I think contributed. I'd also love to hear your guys' thoughts. Mostly, I think just it boiled down to leadership, like we said. Poor leadership and the company growing too large too fast and not being able to properly divert resources and attention where it needed to be. There's also, a significant number or a significant amount of community trust that has been lost over the years, with some of the more prominent examples being the content vaulting, as well as the beware of over delivery speech that was given at the 2022 GEC conference. For any of you who don't know, basically one of the head developers came forward and gave a presentation about game design, and the focal point of their presentation was the quote, "Beware of over delivery, you're making bad habits," in which they were trying to say, don't commit to things that you can't deliver on, and make sure that you are setting clear expectations for your fan base. But what it came across as was just, hey, don't make good stuff, because then your fans are going to want more good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't give them more than what they expect. That's like when you said beware of over delivery, then my first thought was like, wait, but why would you not want to give me more if you have it ready?
Exactly. And so that was a very frustrating
Because
thing.
they can charge you for more.
Yeah.
There's also an overdependence on microtransactions. The game is constantly shoving paid cosmetics down your throat and trying to get you to buy the newest expansion, which definitely turns off a lot of people. But I think the biggest thing that caused Destiny to fail is Pete Parsons. Full stop. I have no respect for Pete Parsons.
Tell me why.
In the 10 years of Pete Parsons being a CEO, he never took a pay cut, even though they went through numerous layoffs. The most he ever did was...
But he's a CEO. If we pay him more, the video game will be better. It's just how
Right.
it is.
Exactly.
Boo.
Never took a pay cut.
Sarcasm.
Although caveat, he did forfeit some annual bonuses, but that's whatever. And while under his leadership, over the 10 years across multiple different layouts, Bungie lost approximately a quarter of their developers, of their staff. He laid off over 300 people, some of which he had offered to show them his exotic car collection just a few days prior to firing them, which is very, very tone deaf. To say, hey, want to check out my cool new car? Also, you're
So
fired.
hairy.
Exactly.
That's messed up.
Yeah. So P. Parsons stepped down just prior to Edge of
Like
Fate
the thing
launching.
is if we ever made him, he wouldn't have that exotic car collection. He probably wouldn't have his extra vacation home, and if he doesn't have those, then he can't be making good CEO decisions to make Destiny 2.
Exactly.
And without that, where would he be? Having Destiny 3, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. All I know is I hate microtransactions. Like,
Yes.
especially for like a paid game. I know now Destiny, the base game is free and you can buy all the DLCs, and we got the game on a Steam sale for all the DLCs, so it wasn't bad. But just literally like hopping in the game when you're going through menus, like there's just the whole store, a bunch of microtransactions. You're constantly getting little things like Eververse, engrams, just to make you want to go look at the store.
I have an opposite opinion of microtransactions. I hate them and I think that they're bad, yes, but I understand that sometimes they're a necessary evil. Like, there's some games that I'm playing, this one called Palia, which is completely free, and I literally told my wife, because we're playing it together, like, if you want to buy a costume, do it, because I'd like to support these developers, because it's a fun game and they put a lot of work into it. And so I think they're bad, but I don't know. I don't really know.
I will say this. I think that generally speaking, microtransactions are bad, but I do understand if you make a free game and there's some cosmetics you can buy, and I love the game, I won't feel bad buying it for a free game. It's just when a game you are paying for it and there's microtransactions on top of it, and there's no other way to get in-game currency to get those stuff, that's when it kind of starts grinding my gears. So it's like, I already paid you $70, and now you're just trying to take more money from me. I already paid you $70 for the base game, $40 for the DLC, and now you want another $20 for an outfit, and there's no other way for me to get this.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of the frustration with Destiny 2 was, is that there was a lot of fun stuff in the game that was only accessible through paywalls, and people didn't really like that. But enough about the shitty stuff of Destiny 2. What made Destiny, or not just Destiny 2, but Destiny as a whole, what made it so good?
Well, I'm going to say just like, I've loved the gameplay. I think the lore is super fascinating, the build crafting, but also it's just fun to hop on with your friends and just ride around on hoverboards like you're in Treasure Planet and just fighting monsters. Like, it is just it can be casual or hardcore, but it just allows a wide variety of gameplay styles, and it's fun to play with your friends.
Yeah,
it's very creative. It has just solid gameplay. I mean, we've said that before, but there are so many crappy little games out there that this one is really clean, you know, and it works well. And I think that, like I mentioned before, that there's no other game like it. You know, we mentioned Warframe, we mentioned there's a couple others that I can't think of off the top of my head, but there's not Destiny. You know, like, they don't have all of the stuff that Destiny has. And so for someone, I played Destiny 1. I played it like when it first came out. I did the Vault of Glass and was in the tower just sending friend invites to people to do raids on my PlayStation. I loved it.
I had some random dudes do the Taken King raid with me. They just sent me an invite and I just joined them and went and did like half the raid together before everyone had to get off. There was just a lot of really fun small moments you could have with such a wide variety of content, and the world building just in the world itself when you're traveling around. Like, just in Destiny 2 the other day, I was running around by myself trying to just do some random quests to get an exotic. I ended up down in this bunker with a giant head of an exo talking to me. And I was like, what's going on with this like 100-foot tall exo head that's speaking to me? Like, there's just tons of interesting deep lore and stuff going on that's there for you to experience that makes the world rich, vibrant, and fun. It's a completely unique game, and the fact that it's like medieval sci-fi. Like, in Destiny 1, I played a warlock and I was running around in chainmail with like my coat of arms on my chest with this like tabard and blasting people with giant black holes. And then in Destiny 2, I'm running around as a titan, throwing flaming hammers and shooting LMGs and hand cannons while fighting gods. It's like, there's no other game like it.
Yeah. And I think that is probably the saddest part of Destiny's death, is that, like you were saying earlier, Chad, there's no game like Destiny. It is truly one of a kind, and that's partially what led to its success. But it's probably the thing that makes its downfall hurt the most, is that's it. There's no other game that perfectly matches that same aesthetic and, you know, gameplay. And there's
died from a Marathon of all games. Like, I don't want to put Marathon too much down for the 3 Marathon fans out there, but it was like Destiny just has so much more to offer, I feel like.
I mean, Marathon player counts are currently at an all-time low, and Sony's response to this is everything's fine, we're doing good.
Marathon currently has less than 5,000 players.
Yeah,
and
like
Destiny 2 have, even though that is dead.
Destiny 2, the 24-hour peak is 39,000.
Damn. Like, literally 3 times the amount of players on a dead game as opposed to their new flagship.
No, it's 8 times as many players.
8 times. I thought you said, oh no, yeah, because it's
5,000 versus 40,000 almost.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, like, I know extraction shooters are the new hot thing on the market with like arc raiders and stuff, but extraction shooters are such a niche market. Marathon was mired in controversy with stealing art and just the gameplay not looking that interesting, and it just kind of feels like it was set up to fail from the beginning.
Well, it was set up to be a cash grab. They saw we need money, let's make this simple game and make money.
So yeah, it's very sad that this is where it's ended. But as we wrap up, we already talked about it a little bit. Yeah, this is us after completing the Final Shape campaign, after doing the Excision activity.
Everyone look at my ghost. My ghost was the one that has the cool hair. I loved him so much. He was
Yeah. I wish I could have given my ghost his own name and not just called him Ghost.
Yeah. Well, one of the countless things that would have made the game infinitely better and saved it and kept it from dying.
If it was Peter
If you got Peter Dinklage's voice, that would have been great. But yeah, what we've already talked about it a little bit. But what made you? It's bold of me to assume that you guys love Destiny. It's easy for me to say that I love Destiny because I have over 1,500 hours in it. But what made you guys at least play it long enough and humor me as I dragged you through it?
For me, I played Destiny 1, so I love Destiny 1. And then as we were going through it, the story, I was actually interested because it was leading somewhere. And then we played the Final Shape, and it ended, and then it just kind of petered on after that. And where we are right now, I'm still enjoying it, and we're still playing it, but I do think that, like I said, I really think if they had made that a stopping point and started Destiny 3 there, it would have been better, hopefully. But again, it's just a fun game to play with your friends, and that's why I like it. I always love games that are continuous and long that you can play with your friends.
I love the unique aspect from like the story, the art style, the build crafting. I thought it was super fun. I was literally, Eric was sending us like different builds. I'm like, cool, love it. I'm gonna try to do my own thing because I think this is fun to try to figure out what armor pieces work well with what. Gives me a good reason to want to grind. The PvP is really solid. Yeah, the story surprised me. It was nice to have it leading somewhere. Shadow Keep felt a little meh, but it was still interesting from a story perspective. The Lightfall, but the Witch Queen and Final Shape I thought were fantastic. The voice acting, the animations of the characters, a lot of cinematics were really well done. The music was really good. I love the music in Destiny. And yeah, just like Chad said, it's a fun game to play with your friends because you sit down, you're all playing a different Guardian, you're working together, you feel like you're saving the world, but you're also just goofing around and like grinding on rails. And with all the
half of the game was me going into my inventory, and while I'm in my inventory, Eric is on their sled or whatever, the little speeder, and pushing me off a ledge and killing me. And it was a blast, you know, like it was a fun little thing of
like I got
artillery in creative ways over and over.
Yeah, and like at some point I unlocked this pose where my guy just like looks up, pumping his fist in the air, and was like, cool, every time the other characters are talking, I'm just fist bumping it, and then Eric comes and like kick flips me off the cliff. And it was just goofy fun. Like, yes, there was serious moments. It was a really nice story. There was some heartfelt stuff in there that I did feel some emotion with. And it was also like, we'd be in the tower, and Eric would just do an emote. He'd be sitting in a tub splashing. We'd just join him splashing. We'd start playing music together. Or it was just, it felt like a game where you could have it as serious or as goofy as you want. Yeah. And that made it fun.
A good foundation for friends and community.
Yeah. And there was just something for everybody. The hardcore, like, we need to build craft to beat these raids on the nightmare difficulty or whatever, or we're going to be sweating in PvP, or I just want to goof around with my friends. Like, it had something for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm sad to see you go.
Very sad to see you go. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on Destiny, whether you love it or hate it, and then why exactly. Because it is, like it or not, it is probably one of the most influential games when it comes to the MMORPG and looter shooter spaces, especially looter shooter. I feel like it's a bit of a pioneer in that regard, alongside like Borderlands. But
between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, it's been around for 10-something years. It's been pretty dominant for a long time. People still play it. And it's a fun game with, like, one of the things, like, that frustrated me while playing is they had all this cool lore, but I couldn't really discover it in world anymore because all of the seasonal content and, like, 4 of the campaigns are vaulted. So all of this really interesting, cool stuff I wanted to learn about and play was gone. And so playing the game just made me kind of nostalgic for something that didn't exist, like this bittersweet feeling of like, this is a really cool world.
There's a word
I
for
wish
that.
it
Did
no
you
one
know
got.
that? And I can't remember it off the top of my head, but there is
It is like a
for,
German word.
for nostalgia for something that doesn't exist. The key emphasis that people refer to this is the Shire and Lord of the Rings, but you tend to feel nostalgia for something that doesn't really exist.
Yeah. And I had this like weird nostalgic feeling towards the Destiny content I couldn't play, and this bittersweetness for how it ended, and just wishing that this world could have continued.
Yeah. But that's it. That's the entirety of Destiny.
That's
It's
Destiny.
very unlikely we'll ever get a Destiny 3.
Unless
Unless
like
you count
this
Destiny Rising.
Sony keeps it and deletes Bungie. I don't know. Like, there's no way, right? There's like no word where it happens.
Sony buys
Yeah,
the
I
rights to
think not
Destiny off
anytime
of
within the
Bungie.
next 5 years, yeah. If we do get a
What?
Destiny 3, it's not going to be until like a decade from now, and they try and do a nostalgia cash grab.
Like, watch it. Like 3 years from now, there'll be a PlayStation State of Play since E3 is dead, sadly, and it'll be like Destiny 3 brought to you by Sony, and it'll be like, no, PlayStation only.
And Spider-Man's in it.
Yeah.
Well,
And don't
that's
forget the
Fortnite.
the Spider-Man DLC. The Fortnite of video games is a problem across the board.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Wow.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble on for an hour about my special interest game.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for all joining us. Like, we're just happy to have you here. We love learning stuff new. We're so glad Eric was able to teach us about something he loves. If you guys have anything you love you want us to learn about, let us know. We'd be more than happy to dive into it. Well, see you next time.
See you next time.